Last summer, sleep kept us sane through the silence. This summer, you're going to need sleep to get over all of this. That's why it's the perfect time to upgrade to a Nectar mattress and get award-winning, precision-engineered sleep at incredible value. Prices start at just $499, and you get $399 in accessories thrown in, a 365-night home trial, and a forever warranty. Go to nectarsleep.com.
Right, let's talk books. Catherine Robertson joins me now. Hi there, Catherine.
Hello.
Nice to have you on the show. I've finally finished the last book that you recommended to me, so what am I going to read next?
Well, I have to say, this is a bit of a grab bag, because lockdown, I can't get hold of books, but honestly, I don't know. I think some people find it a really great opportunity to read, but I think my brain just dissolves. And my concentration span is just not good. And I really want to read, because when have you got, the chance to do it like you have in lockdown? But
yes.
I absolutely need my material it needs to be uplifting, can't be dark, it's got to be amusing, and it's got to be easily digestible. So I have recommended the most recent books that are all those things, and my only theme that I could possibly come up was that they were all linked by the letter G. So in my Sesame Street moment, I bring you books linked by the letter G.
Beginning with Rick Gagosky.
Rick Gagosky, yes. He's actually my neighbour up in Hawke's Bay. He's married to a New Zealand woman. But he sort of came to light in 2005 with an amazing book called Tolkien's Gown. He started off as an academic. Yeah, it was great fun. He was an academic and then discovered he actually was a much better rare book dealer than he was an academic. And he went into that full time, and he still writes. He often writes, for The Guardian. He's written quite a number of books now, but Tolkien's Gown came up in 2005 and was super popular. He's got a great style. But Guarded by Dragons is the latest one, and that just came out in July. And actually I went to a great Verb event, Claire Mavy's Great Verb events, and she chose Robert Kelly, RNZ's own, to interview Rick.
I remember.
Yeah, and it was honestly, Rick is just a raconteur. He tells a great story, and this book is full of what he calls encounters with rare books and rare people. And honestly, they're witty and suspenseful, and they're sort of equal parts, he has this such deep enthusiasm for what he's talking about, but he's also quite grumpy, which is always also hilarious. But he was involved with some of the rare people he got involved with were Ted Hughes, Graham Greene,
yeah,
John Fowles, who does not come out of it well. The management of Faber and Faber, who sued him, they also do not come out of this all that well. And James Watson of Watson and Crick, and it's a very strange story, but it's great because you can dip into it, and they don't necessarily. You can just dip into it at any point and read any story. They're all self-contained, and I just absolutely loved it.
Sounds sort of deliciously gossipy.
It's quite gossipy, but it's all sort of it's from true. It's his experiences, and he very much sort of, talks about it from his experience, but he also doesn't sort of hold back on how he reacted or how he felt about certain things. So that's where the nice sort of grumpiness comes from. But yeah, no, I just adored it.
Perhaps you'll have a memoir like this yourself after a few more years in the book game, Catherine Robertson.
Good book trade. Well, I was actually thinking that last lockdown I didn't own a bookshop and hadn't even had a plan to own a bookshop. That all happened after the last lockdown. Just incredible, really. Yeah. But yes, I won't be dealing with the tens of thousands of pounds worth of books that Rick talks about in this. That's not my level. But
have you shifted heaps of copies? Do you happen to know if you shifted heaps of copies of that? I know that wasn't the intention, but of that George Saunders book since you talked about it on this show a couple of months ago?
I don't know. I do know that so many people have read it and talked about it. So I'd imagine that we've sold as many copies as we could get our hands on. It really is just a delightful book. Again, if I hadn't read I'd be devouring it.
I've got an old friend in London who I sent an email to and said, I've got recommended this book, I'm really enjoying it. And he emailed me back and he said, yeah, I'm halfway through it and my wife is halfway through it as well. It feels like that book that everyone's reading at the moment. Anyway, we've already probably devoted enough sessions to talking about George Saunders, A Swim in a Pond in the Rain.
But
even though he starts with a G.
So we can talk. Yeah, exactly. But my next one, which actually came, because working in the bookshop, you get the odd advanced reading copy. And this book is out this month in August. And delivery times are all awry. Apparently, good books, we have 6 of them on order, which means we're waiting for them to be delivered. But it's a little memoir by a British woman called Georgia Pritchett, who has made a name for herself as a scriptwriter. Won lots of awards. She's a comedy writer, so she's written most recently for Veep, Miranda, she did Smack the Pony, Spitting Image, etc. And this lovely little book is called My Mess is a Bit of a Life, Adventures in Anxiety. And it's a memoir written in lovely little vignettes. Some of them are only a paragraph long, and some of them, I think the longest is like maybe 2.5 pages. So it's perfect for just kind of,
when you don't have the stickability going on.
Yeah. And she sort of starts off in her childhood, moves into current day, where I think she's in her late 40s, maybe early 50s. She's mother to 2 boys now. And it is so funny. It's one of these sort of ones that you start, and then, I don't know about you, but when I start reading funny books, they kind of have a cumulative effect. And the more I start laughing, I just can't stop. You sort of get into this weird sort of crying with laughter thing.
Yeah, I was reading... my favourite comedian, Norm MacDonald, has a memoir, which is kind of a bit of a tall tales memoir. And I just remember just shuddering in bed next to my wife, who eventually kicked me out. I just couldn't.
Exactly.
Once it gets you, and I don't know, it's a bit of a snowball effect reading.
Yes.
Even more so than watching TV or a movie.
Yeah, I don't know, you just get into that mode and then it just becomes impossible. And sometimes I actually have to stop because I just go, no, I'm going to hurt something. But I found this to be like this, and it may be because I'm in a heightened state of vulnerability or something, but it is very funny. Yes. It's also very moving. Her life hasn't gone smoothly, and particularly in her later years. And so there's quite a lot of darker stuff, but she makes it so approachable and so funny. I mean, this one really spoke to me. I was just going to read a little piece to sort of give you an idea of the tone.
Yes, please.
And this is, one from her childhood, which is entitled Cake. And it says, I didn't really like parties when I was a child, but one time I came back from a party, and to my parents' amazement, I said I had a good time. Why? They asked. I had cake and didn't join in any of the games. This has very much been my approach to life. I thought, that's so me. It's so me. Yes. So, but it is helpful because she actually started writing it because she was in a therapy session and the therapist said, can you tell me what's wrong? And she could not speak. And the therapist said, can you write it down? And this memoir is a result of her writing down a whole bunch of, issues in her life, which I loved.
So that one's called My Mess is a Bit of a Life, Adventures in Anxiety by Georgia Pritchett. Yeah.
Georgia Pritchett, yes. And just quickly, yes, so bad for a bookshop owner to admit, but a friend here recommended a detective series that I'd never heard of before, even though it's sold in its millions. The writer is called Louise Penny, and her character is Chief Inspector Armand Gamache, and it's set in Quebec. They started in about 2005 with a book called Still Life, and I think there were about 17. So I'm afraid I've been kind of binging them on the Kindle.
Right.
So they're set, as I say, in Quebec, in this kind of seemingly perfect little town called Three Pines. And it's very character-driven. I mean, the plots are good, but it's very much about the characters. It's got a strong kind of moral code or ethical code, I think, running through it. Inspector Gamache reminded me a bit of Donna Leon's Commissario Brunetti in her detective series about Venice. And it's because, quite often you get the detective who's really got issues and is a drunken loner.
It's the bread and butter, isn't it?
Exactly. But Inspector Gamache, as is Commissario Brunetti, are very well-adjusted and decent human beings. And there's a very similar focus on food. There's a lot of focus on food. And Quebec, sort of Quebec was food. which I found absolutely fascinating. There's not very much violence, but there's probably too much swearing for it to be a truly cozy mystery. But I really enjoyed them. It's nice to find a series that's down the track, so you don't have to wait too long before you can read the next one.
Definitely, yeah. So you would probably be best to look up Louise Penny, Penny, and it's a series of detective novels.
Armand Gamache detective series.
Thank you, Catherine.
You're very welcome.
We all know skincare is important because skincare is self-care. So let's keep it simple. Love your skin and every bit of its potential because imperfection is perfection. And the journey is for you to create. Today, tomorrow, and the next. Shop skincare at Ulta Beauty now. Ulta Beauty. The possibilities are beautiful.